This video is dedicated to Christian Roberts. Christian, thank you. Alright, playing another game of Brawl, and yeah, I've got a pretty decent opening hand there. Need to get into another land, but that should be easy enough. Let's have a look at who our opponent is. Playing against Obosh, the Preypiercer, which is a Rakdos commander, and it doubles up damage pretty much. So we'll play out the tap land now and scry. Faith's Fetters to the bottom. I think we've already got a Prism Realm. Our opponent has gotten into Castle Lochthwain and a Swamp, of course, so missing their red mana. We get into the Plains and we'll go Angel of Vitality now because it'll be a 4/4. Alright, and then our opponent went for Disfigure on that. Maybe the client at their end showed that as a 2/2. Yeah, I don't know. That's a 4/4 at our end, so maybe that's their client messing up. Now a 3/2 Rakdos creature. I imagine our opponent will want to rush us with lots of damage as best they can. So let's have a look at the top of our library with Prism Realm, and we'll get rid of that big beater while we're at it. We want to get into another land. Hate to scry that to the bottom, but then might as well hit our opponent for 4. Argument to be made for not turning sideways there. There is a chance that, pretty big chance actually, that they've got haste creatures in this deck. One land away from their commander. Okay, Bedevil. Oh, I've never seen the animation for Bedevil. We do get into that land that we needed. So let's just get down. Yeah, Basri's Lieutenant is no good at the moment. Yeah, let's get down Calix instead of Heliod. And we'll try and have a look at the top cards. Maybe we can get into some enchantment ramp. Nope, just clearing lands off the top. Not necessarily the best move there. Obviously we didn't know what was on top of our library though. A Deathbloom Thalid, that's going to be a tricky one for us to block. Oh, we could get it out of the way with a Banishing Light. I think we'll go for the plus on Calix. And there's a blocker. Don't like to use it as a chump blocker, but yeah, I think we can do in this regard. Let's go for Heliod the Sun-Crowned. Then into Alseid of Life's Bounty. And we know there's no Disfigure in our opponent's hand now because they used it earlier on. The Deathbloom Thalid going in at our commander. Yeah, I think we do just chump block here. Gain a tiny bit of life in the process. That allows Heliod to put a plus counter on himself when we do gain life. Night Squad Commando coming down now. If they attack this turn, it comes in with a human, so that's probably part of the Mardu Humans deck. Alright, there's some of that enchantment ramp. Let's plus on Calix again. We can get the limit break off next turn, but I don't think we're going to. We're probably going to lose our commander actually. Yeah, I think we do just ramp this turn. So we'll put the 3 mana ramp enchantment on a Plains. That will make the Plains tap for 2 mana of any one colour. And then we can put the Wolfwillow Haven on something as well. Plus counter on Heliod again, because that gains us 3 life when it enters. And like I said, we'll put the Wolfwillow Haven on the basic Plains. Alright, there comes our opponent's commander, Obosh. Like I said before, we're probably going to lose our commander here. But I'm alright with them getting their commander down because we're going to wrap it up in a board wipe next turn. with that adventure card that we've got. Put our commander back in the command zone, and we get to make a land for the turn as well, that's good. So let's go for cast off. And after this we'll be able to, if we get into the mana, we'll be able to get into a 7/7 Vigilance Giant. Might as well get down the Destiny Spinner here, so let's crack this for mana. Our opponent is going to end the turn with a Saproling thanks to the Deathbloom Thalid, or whatever it's called. Go for Destiny Spinner, a decent blocker. Now Judith the Scourge Diva, a good commander in her own right. And going for Erebos' Intervention onto Destiny Spinner. Yeah, that's just -X and gain X life, so yeah, a bit preemptive with that I think. They could have just swung in with the Saproling, dealt 2 damage to our creature and then pinged it with Judith, assuming that we block, which we wouldn't have done anyway. Yeah, seems like a waste of a card there. I think we're just going for the Realm Cloaked Giant here. I think they're going to have trouble with that. And then I don't mind trading the Destiny Spinner for a Judith, to be honest, because I doubt they're going to be countering many of our spells. Okay, Unholy Indenture. When the enchanted creature dies, return it to the battlefield under your control with a plus counter on it. And they are deciding to swing in. I think we just block the Judith here and get that enchantment off it, because we might want to go for another board wipe at some point, and yeah, we just don't want to be dealing with creatures surviving board wipes. They will ping us with the Judith for killing it off, and she comes back as a 3/3. I think we need to start giving our Rakdos friend a headache with some life gain. So let's go for Daxos. Makes a decent blocker as well. That also animates Heliod. And then we'll go for Ajani's Pridemate, which will gain us a life. We'll put a plus counter on the Destiny Spinner, make it a better blocker. And then let's go for Colossal Majesty as well, which acts like a Phyrexian Arena with this board state. Then we can swing in with all 3 creatures because, again, Judith can block the green creature if she wants to. And she does. We whack our opponent, take them all the way down to 7. And they finish off the green creature. That dies, gains us a life, and a plus counter goes on. We'll put one on Daxos and one goes on the Pridemate. Our opponent says good game, so looks like we managed to move things along nicely. Battery's Lieutenant is in here for board states like this, particularly with Heliod, although there are other creatures that can put plus counters on themselves. We would survive a board wipe here by getting a bunch of Vigilance Knights into play, or soldiers, whichever they are. Anyway, our opponent gets down Perforos, we just have to turn in sideways. There's nothing they can do here. And they graciously take it. So that was a pretty quick one, a pretty bad matchup for our opponent as well. Like a Burn, Rakdos, aggro deck. Yeah, a life gain deck is about as bad as it gets for them, so we'll see if we can have a more back and forth game with the next one. Okay, in for game 2 now. That looks very similar to the last hand, but I think we can keep that. I like Omen of the Hunt, getting us into another land, taking us into our 4-drops. Our opponent gets down a command tower, so we'll just get down the Destiny Spinner. And then going for an Arcane Signet. We don't have Arcane Signet in this deck, one of the few decks that would run it. Haven't actually looked at who our opponent is, have we? Heliod, the Sun Crowned. Alright, we know what Heliod does. We use it in this deck. Let's swing in at them for 2. Yeah, don't use any mana rocks in this deck because we've got enchantment-based ramp, similar to our Tuvasa deck in eedi-H. We want to be able to grab the ramp off the top with our commander. Another mana rock in mana geode, and that one will allow them to scry 1. And technically it's not correct, but we'll go for Omen of the Hunt. Should really have done that whilst they only had a plains in play, or when they tap out, if they do. But we'll go for Omen of the Hunt now. I don't think there's anything in Standard that could have done anything about that in mono white. Now, Impassioned Orator. That's a really good card. We've got that in this deck. There is a plus counter / life gain sub-theme in this deck. Speaking of life gain, we'll go for the Archon of Sun's Grace. And then let's swing in with the 2 mana 2/3. Take them down to 21. Deciding to cast Mirror Shield, which is basically a hexproof enabler, gives additional toughness, but it is a flavourful card in that if it blocks a creature with Death Touch, it destroys the creature that it blocks. Then they go for an equip onto the Orator, and they just leave that back, I imagine. That's exactly what they do. We get some more removal in Banishing Light. We could go for Basri's Lieutenant. I think we just go for Calix and start trying to tick that up. It means that the Archon of Sun's Grace is just sat there for another turn, though. Yeah, we really want to start getting flyers off. Yeah, let's just go for it. We'll go for Calix Destinys Hand. There is a 1 mana enchantment creature in the deck that we saw last game, so we'll hold up the white mana for that, just in case we get it off the top here. No, we do get a means of making more griffins though. That'll go nicely with our Archon of Sun's Grace. Because we do need to gain 3 life, and the Sun's Grace does have 3 lifelink damage to deal out. Alright, going for Ardenvale Technician, which was an adventure card by the looks of it. So tapping down our 2 creatures, and then that's a 2/3 flyer for 3 mana, so may well see that this turn, but I dare say they swing in at our commander at some point. And then a Heliod's Punishment onto our Archon of Sun's Grace, so that's gonna be, yeah, pretty useless for the next 4 turns then. The Ardenvale Tactician does come down. And then they do swing in at our Planeswalker, knocking that down to 3 loyalty. And we get into our own Orator. Let's just plus on Calix again. Alright, Daxos, more life gain for us. Not quite enough white mana to do both of those, unfortunately. So let's just go for the Orator. And then we'll go for the Prism Realm onto the Flyer, because this thing only targets Planeswalkers and creatures, whereas Banishing Light can target anything. Also get Scry, definitely leave a Plains on top. We were just complaining about not having enough white mana. Then we'll activate the Archon of Sun's Grace's ability. And we have to do that 3 more times to get Heliod's Punishment off of that thing. Then we can start swinging in and making Pegasus tokens. Heliod finally coming down for them. Faith's Fetters might be really good on that thing because it'll stay on as it becomes a creature and an enchantment depending on what happens to our opponent's devotion. And so they won't be able to give creatures lifelink and drop plus counters all over the place. Then swinging in at our Calix, they might have a buff spell of some kind. Nope, they just want to gain some life, so We'll just block, keep them from dealing damage to our Planeswalker. And this will get a plus counter on it when they deal damage, I imagine. Yep. Draw into that Plains that we put on top. Let's play that out straight away. And then we could exile Heliod with our commander, but I think I'll just go for Banishing Light instead. And we'll force them to replay that, which they can easily do next turn. In fact, they can replay it and activate its ability. Anyway, we'll go for Griffin Airy and then maybe go for Faith's Fetters onto Heliod next turn. And that'll get us into a flyer. We get Renata off the top with our commander. So perhaps the Griffins will come in with plus counters. Tap down our Archon again. And then we'll just leave back some blockers. Might throw the Destiny Spinner in the way of the Orator. Heliod coming down again. And again going in at Calix. And very much the same as last time, giving that lifelink, so we'll just block. Save our commander some damage, and another plus counter goes on the Orator. That's plus on Calix straight away. Okay, all that glitters is good, especially if we can get an evasive creature in play. Let's activate the Archon before I forget. And then I don't mind going for Renata. Yeah, let's just do some setting up. Our opponent's not doing all that much with Heliod, so we'll get down both Daxos and Renata. And they're decent blockers then, so we can swing in, knock our opponent down to 25. I think we do want to get the Faith's Fetters onto the Heliod at some point though. Oh wow, a Heliod's Intervention. Alright, so wiping out a bunch of our enchantments there. That's probably one of the worst cards we could see against this deck. Yeah, getting rid of a bunch of permanents from us. And then because our opponent had the Tactician re-enter the battlefield, they gain a life and put a plus counter on it. Then going in at Calix with both creatures, I imagine. Completely unopposed. So that finally goes down. And we will put him back in the command zone. Another land for us. At least we can start making these Pegasus tokens now though. Let's go for the Faith's Fetters. And we'll put that on Heliod so that when it does become animated they can't swing in with it. They also can't give anything lifelink. And then we will gain some life from the Faith's Fetters and the Orator. Then let's go Knight of Autumn and we'll try and mess up our opponent's mana a little bit, I think. Also gets a blocker in the way. So let's destroy a rock, Mana Geode, or the Arcane Signet. I don't think it really matters which one we do, does it? We'll get rid of the Geode. And we'll have to leave it at that, I think. A Battery's Lieutenant of his own there. Able to put a plus counter on something to have it survive a board wipe. Or not survive a board wipe, but they'll end up with creatures in play even if we do wipe the board. Thanks to the Battery's Lieutenant, that would be a good one to remove. And we won't be able to target Battery's Lieutenant with our commander either, because it is multicoloured. Oh, and a Deafening Silence as well. Ugh. I mean, we can go for Battery's Lieutenant and All That Glitters next turn still. because it is just non-creature spells that the silencing enchantment cares about. Now coming in at us with a 4/6, not particularly bothered about that really. They've only got one card in hand and I don't think it's going to be anything too incredible. So we'll just let them whack us down to 30. And they can't give that lifelink thanks to the Heliod being unable to activate itself. Alright, there is a Wolf Willow Haven. I think I might go for that first. Make it easier for us to do stuff after we've cast our commander again. Does mean we can't go for all that glitters, but yeah, I think I would just like to ramp out a little bit. I don't think our opponent's going to do anything too crazy to us next turn. Also gets us into another Pegasus token. And then we'll go for the Basri's Lieutenant, get a plus counter on the Archon of Sun's Grace. And it also gains us more life when we swing in. So let's just swing in here. They've only got a 4/5 to block with. They can swing back at us if they like with that flyer. It might be that they've got the 1-mana cantrip spell that buffs power and draws a card, but obviously our opponent didn't do that. I dare say they would have used it there if they had it. Alright, a Light of Promise onto the Orator. Every time you gain life, you put that many plus counters on the enchanted creature. Luckily that thing doesn't have lifelink and there's no means for it to gain lifelink on the board at the moment thanks to the Faith's Fetters. Looks like they're swinging in with their 2 creatures here. Then deciding against it. Yep, just leaving them back as blockers. We get into a protection spell. We can cast that as a creature and then all that glitters as a non-creature. Gain us a little bit of life. That does count as an enchantment because it's an enchantment creature, so we get a couple of Griffins this turn, or Pegasus, not Griffins. And then our Archon of Sun's Grace jumps up to a 9/10. And let's swing in with a couple of the Pegasus tokens as well. Alright, deciding to keep their 4/5 in the air. They'll take a hit for 11. Fine with me. And now we've got a protection spell on the board if they do have any kind of targeted enchantment removal. Speaker of the Heavens, they are nowhere near, so I'm fine with that. They were closer last turn before they took a hit for 11, that's for sure. Anyway, that comes down, gains them a life. Heliod can throw a plus counter around because that is a static ability. So giving the Speaker of the Heavens a +1 buff, a 2/2 with Vigilance and Lifelink. They need 32 life to be able to activate that and start making angels, which they're not going to be anywhere near anytime soon. If they could activate Heliod, that would be much better for them. Because they do have some big creatures in play. And with that, we'll get round to our turn. And let's get down this Calix. We draw into Jolariel. Jolariel, however you say it. Let's exile the flyer out of the way. And then we'll play that for when we actually do draw additional cards. And then just turn everything in sideways. Oh, actually, I'm trying to end the game quickly, but yeah, turning everything sideways wasn't a bright idea against a lifelinker, was it? Thankfully, our opponent can't lifelink things with Heliod, like I said. Also, thankfully, not blocking our protection spell, the 1-mana 1/1 lifelink. Basri's Lieutenant. Yeah, so knocking our opponent down to 3. I don't know if we had them there anyway, just with the flyers. The lifelink might have helped them there. So our opponent might have been given another chance there. Yeah, they gain a few bits of life from the combat. And the lieutenant stays in place, so they end up with a vigilance creature, because one of the creatures that died in combat must have been, it must have had a plus counter on it. Now, Archon of Absolution, protection from white might be relevant. Yeah, flying and protection from white. They can't target that with their own Heliod in that case. So just putting it on the Basri's lieutenant. And then swinging in with a vigilance creature. And the Basri's lieutenant. Let's just allow Calix to go down then. I think we've got this one at this point. Our opponent's got no cards in hand. Now this thing is flying, protection from white, and we have to pay tax to swing in. If we give our Archon of Sun's Grace protection from white, the enchantment will fall off. And I think this is a 3/4. So, yeah, let's just give it protection from white to make sure that that gets through. We might have them anyway, but yeah, I think we might have been able to go wide on them anyway, but we'll just swing in. We're definitely dealing 4 damage with the Archon of Justice, or Archon of Sun's Grace even, because it can't be blocked by that flyer. And then we deal 4 damage going wide, yeah, so obviously paying for the tax there and getting through to our opponent quite successfully. So I think that would have been a much different story. I've been hammered by Heliod a few times. Would have been a much different story if they'd been able to activate it, but Faith's Fetters proved to be very, very useful to us there. So hopefully you all enjoyed this one. This is a new Calix deck that I decided to make in Brawl. Some of the cards won't be legal in a few weeks when Zendikar comes out, so if you want to make this deck yourself, just be wary that if you're crafting some of the cards, they won't be legal very soon, and we'll have to change up the deck. It might not even be a viable deck in the next week or so. So just bear that in mind. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did enjoy the content, and be sure to let me know if you want to see more Brawl content. I'm tribalkai on the eedi-H channel. Thank you for watching.